the Hurry Up.
Welcome into this week of the Hurry Up. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. We're on to week 7 of the NFL season, and there are some very intriguing headlines we've been following along with. We'll take a look at fantasy football news this week, standings around the league, and of course, we'll preview the Super Bowl rematch between the Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. Now I'm joined by Nick Goss. And Nick, speaking of headlines, we have to talk about this devastating injury to Aaron Rodgers and the impact it has on the Packers.
This is by far the worst case scenario for the Packers. The Packers have had a few injuries this year to key players, offensive lineman, Ty Montgomery, but this is one injury they cannot overcome. Brett Hundley is the backup. He will start going forward at least. He was not very good in place of Rodgers on Sunday. 3 interceptions, just 1 touchdown, and that's because they had a short field off a turnover. He completed only 18 of 33 passes. It's not something that's going to get them in the playoffs if they don't make a move. So I think the Packers right now are really going to be reeling.
Man, so many injuries. Let's make it stop, people. Okay, 3 teams are 3-3 in the AFC South. Who is the best team?
I'll have to give a slight edge to the Houston Texans. I think Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback in the division, assuming that Andrew Luck is still not healthy. I like their defense as well, even with the injuries to Watt and Merciless. The Jaguars, I can't bet on Blake Bortles. I'm sorry. Even though their defense and Leonard Fournette has been pretty good, Bortles, I just have no confidence in him at all. And the Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota, he's a really good quarterback, but his inability to stay healthy long term so far in his career worries me. So I give a slight edge to the Texans.
And last but not least, the Kansas City Chiefs, they were handed their first loss of the season by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, does this loss say more about the state of the Chiefs, or does it say more about the Steelers?
I'll go with the Steelers. They looked really awful against the Jaguars last week. Big Ben said he might not have it anymore. He stepped up in this game. They're now 3-1 on the road, which gives them confidence going into the playoffs if they don't get a top 2 seed. But for me, the biggest factor with Pittsburgh was Le'Veon Bell had his best game of the season. 179 rush yards and a touchdown. He missed a lot of time in the preseason training camp because of his contract situation. So if he's up to speed, I think Pittsburgh can really start to make a run in the AFC, especially in that AFC North division. Their next 3 games are against the Bengals, Lions, and Colts, all winnable games. So I think the Steelers could start to hit their stride if Bell's up to speed.
They may have gotten the win, but I have Big Ben on my fantasy team, and I am unimpressed. Okay, we're going to send it out to Gillette Stadium for a little preview of the Patriots-Falcons game.
All right, guys, well, we got the Atlanta Falcons coming into town to take on the New England Patriots. Super Bowl 51 rematch. I think it should be a good one. The Falcons probably want to avenge that terrible loss after being up 28-3. But James White, a big part of the Patriots' comeback in that game. Doug, do you think he can have a similar, just enormous game again like he did in the Super Bowl?
It's tough to repeat a 14 catch on 16 target performance with 110 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion. I actually looked it up. I didn't know this previously, that was the most points a non-quarterback has scored in a Super Bowl. So pretty fantastic performance by White. I think he can have a big game. I don't think that he can get 14 catches, but a lot of the pieces that he had success against with the Falcons are still there. So guys like Keanu Neal, guys like Deion Jones, who were trying to cover him in the Super Bowl as best as they could, will be trying to cover him again in this game. Those players are another year older. They were both young players in the Super Bowl, so they could fare a little bit better against White, but I think it is still a good matchup. I think that the Patriots would be smart to test the Falcons early to see if they have figured out how to cover James White, because they certainly hadn't in the Super Bowl.
Well, on the other side of things, Julio Jones also had a great game in the Super Bowl. Zach, how do you think that the Patriots will cover him? Because we got Stephon Gilmore, who's questionable. So I guess if he's in and if he's not, how will they look?
Well, I think if he's in, I think you will see a lot of Stephon Gilmore on Julio Jones, like you saw a couple weeks ago with Stephon Gilmore pretty much exclusively matching up against Mike Evans from Tampa Bay. If he's out, that becomes a much more difficult proposition, because Malcolm Butler is a good deal shorter than Julio Jones. He typically doesn't fare particularly well against those big, powerful wide receivers, but they don't really have many other options, especially if Eric Rowe remains out with that groin injury. So it's going to have to be a full team effort either way if Stephon Gilmore is in or out. But if he's out, you're going to see a lot of safety help over the top. And you might even see some Johnson Batamosi on him, because he is a big body. He obviously doesn't play that much on defense, but he had a pretty good game last week. He's a big body, can match up physically with Julio Jones a little bit better. But yeah, Julio Jones is the guy who's kind of underperforming so far this year. The Falcons haven't really involved him as much in the offense as they have in the past. Dan Quinn said earlier this week he wants that to change. I think that could change this week if the Patriots can't find a way to cover him.
And Batamosi, classic example of Patriots next man up mentality. Absolutely. He was definitely a surprising good substitution or fill-in for Stephon Gilmore in that game against the Jets. He looked really good.
And now we're joined by Ricky Doyle for our lock and upset of the week. So let's start out with the lock.
Okay. My lock, I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans over the Cleveland Browns this week.
Picking on the Browns.
Picking on the Browns,
Classic.
absolutely. And why not? I mean, this team stinks. I was one of the people going into the season. I thought that maybe they'd take a step forward. I like what they did in the draft. They got some talent on that team, particularly on the defensive side, but the results just haven't been there. Continue to get mopped up week after week. Deshaun Watson, the latest to slice and dice them in week 6. So I don't know. I think Marcus Mariota's a little banged up, but he showed on Monday night against the Colts that he can still beat you with his arm, not quite as mobile. And going up against that Browns defense, I just like the Titans to roll on that one.
Poor Browns. What about an upset?
1-21 under
not good.
Hugh Jackson. Not ideal. Not ideal.
Don't blame you for that lock of the week.
No.
Upset?
Upset, I'm going to take a winless team, another winless team, the 49ers, to upset the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow, okay, this is bold.
And it is, but the 49ers are the first team in NFL history to lose 5 straight games by 3 points or fewer, lost those games by a combined 13 points. So you know this team's going to be in there until the end. They're not that good, and at some point you're going to win some of these games, but I think this is a pretty good week for them to maybe do that. They got the unpredictability surrounding Ezekiel Elliott going in this game for Dallas. Good run defense for San Francisco going in this. So Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers are going to get over the hump at some point if they keep it close like they've done all season. I think this is the week.
You can do it, guys.
At home, get it done.
I like it. We're moving on to the great debate between Andre and Nick. I don't know if it's going to be great. We'll let you see for yourself.
Fasten your seatbelt.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Andre Kachaturian here. He's Nick Goss. Let's do another NFL debate. We got 3 topics here. Let's do some rapid fire, all right?
Do it.
Aaron Rodgers, he's out. We've talked about that. The Packers are in trouble. Which NFC team do you think is going to be the biggest beneficiary from Rodgers' injury?
For me, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the best record in the conference at 5-1. I think this gives them even more confidence that the best quarterback in the conference is now hurt, possibly for the entire season. Carson Wentz has been tremendous for the Eagles. I just love the way they're playing right now. Their only losses to the Chiefs, it was just by a touchdown. I think the Eagles now are the clear favorite in the NFC, even despite Wentz's inexperience.
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I look at their yards per play differential. It's one of my favorite stats in football. They have the 3rd best yards per play differential in football. And last year, they've had a great defense since last year, but last year the problem was their quarterback play. They've been getting that from Case Keenum and Sam Bradford. They're not turning the ball over. They're protecting the ball. And, of course, with the Packers being in their division, I think they are now the favorites in that division. Now, let's keep moving on. The New Orleans Saints in the NFC South, they've won 3 in a row. Their defense has been thriving. They had a shutout, and now they had like a bunch of turnovers against the Lions. Do you think that's good enough to win the NFC South?
I think they can win that division because Atlanta looked really bad blowing that lead against Miami. The Panthers losing to the Eagles on Thursday night. I think they can win the division. Drew Brees doesn't turn the ball over. He's a very good quarterback still. I think Alvin Kamara has been one of the steals of the draft. I think he's a really good running back to pair with Mark Ingram. And I need to see a little bit more from their defense, but the forcing turnovers I really like. They didn't do that the last few years. We know they did that during their Super Bowl run. That was a big factor in that. So I like it, but I need to see a little more.
You know what also I like about the Saints? And I agree with you. I think they can win that division. I think they will win that division. I had them from the start of the season. What I like about them is Drew Brees has been sacked just 4 times this year. That's an incredible offensive line that they have there. A very underrated offensive line. No one's really talking about them. And one guy that they did get rid of, Adrian Peterson, he's going to Arizona now. Let's move on to the next team, the Cardinals. Adrian Peterson already is the team's leading rusher in Arizona after 1 game.
It's astounding.
Do you think that's for real, or do you think he can lead the Cardinals to the playoffs?
I think they have a shot. I mean, now that they have a running game, Carson Palmer will get better protection because defenses will have to respect the running game. I think he's still a capable quarterback. For me, it's can Peterson hold up? Can he hold up over a full season, getting a ton of carries? That division is winnable because the Rams have played well, but they haven't separated themselves. Seattle has issues, even though I think they're probably still the favorite. So I think they could win the division, but if I had to bet, I would bet on the Rams and Seahawks.
I agree with you. I think that Adrian Peterson will make Arizona a more interesting team in the second half of the season. If you look at the Rams and the Seahawks, Cardinals are still the 3rd best team in that division. Carson Palmer has been being mauled this season. I think they haven't been protecting him well, the offensive line. Maybe Peterson's presence will help, as you said. But I don't know. He's an old quarterback, can't really move around. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Welcome into Fantasyland. We're going to talk about the fantasy football waiver wire. Now I'm joined by Darren Hartwell. Darren, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great.
You
Excited
just
for
beat
week
me
7.
in fantasy this week, so I don't know if we can sit together
Tight
right now.
matchup.
But we will use your advice because clearly you're doing something right. So who are your must-own players on the waiver wire this week?
Yeah, I have 2. First of all, we're talking about running back Orleans Darkwa for the Giants. First of all, great
Awesome name.
Yep, we love it. Looks like he finally won the #1 job this weekend in the Giants' backfield. 117 yards on 21 carries against the Broncos on the road. One of the best run defenses in the NFL, arguably the best run defense. I think the Giants going forward are going to have to rely on that run game with Odell Beckham, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard out. So he's going to see a lot of carries going forward. So I like him. I think he's kind of the top priority. And then an injury replacement at wide receiver, I like Marvin Jones, replacing Golden Tate. Golden Tate went down, and this is not for right now. The Lions are actually on a bye this week, but I think you still have to get Jones kind of down the line. He had 96 yards on Sunday and a touchdown, nice one-handed catch, and he actually had 14 targets. A lot of those came when Golden Tate was out. So I think going forward, you have to have him on your roster. Tate could miss 2-3 weeks after he comes off the bye, so I think that's valuable enough to scoop him up if you have the open roster spot.
Man, lots of injuries in the league.
I know.
Come on, make it stop, people. And good luck in week 7.
The name of the game is Show and Tell. This is where I bring in objects each week and use it to give you a few developing thoughts I have on the 2017 NFL season. First up, you got I believe this is a dry cleaning bag that has VIP across it, as in very important person. You know who's a very important person? Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who now is probably going to be out for the season with an injury, and that all but dooms the Packers' chances of going to the Super Bowl. I don't want to be that guy because everybody seems to have this same opinion that, you lose Rodgers and you're done for the year, but frankly, the Packers need him to get by. They're decimated by injuries elsewhere, and really he was compensating for a lot of the inefficiencies elsewhere. Now that they don't have him, this team's in trouble. The Vikings have a pretty good defense. Lions also a pretty good team, although they've had some hiccups lately. And the Bears, real pain in the keister in that division. So I don't like the Packers' chances going forward, and it's all because they lost their VIP Aaron Rodgers. Next up, this paves the way, this Packers development here, for the new best team in the NFC, and that is from Philadelphia, just like where Rocky's from, the Eagles. They are 5-1. 1 win for each of the 5 DVDs I have here. Great Saturday afternoon if you ever want to just pop these on. But let me tell you why I like the Eagles. They got a good rushing attack, very versatile. Carson Wentz looks like he's the real deal. Love that front 7. Defense making plays, coming off that win over the Carolina Panthers. I'm pretty high on the Eagles, was going into the year. Now I'm even more so after 6 weeks of the regular season. Really like the Eagles, although I do expect this one team to catch up to them at some point perhaps. Go off the screen here. Got a big object. It's the plant. You got a plant. And it's because the Atlanta Falcons, let me tell you what their problem is. They'll probably be good towards the end of the year, but there's some seeds of doubt, seeds within this plant that have been placed by the New England Patriots from last year's Super Bowl loss. They have back-to-back losses against AFC East opponents after blowing leads. They got to get over the hump there and learn that, you know what, we can close out games to get back to the NFC title game. So the seeds of doubt got to go away. Knock down the trees. The Falcons will be there at the end of the year. But right now, I like the Eagles from Philadelphia, and I just got a whole collection of objects here. I don't even know what to do with them anymore.
Hey, that'll do it for this week of The Hurry Up. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.